Hi everyone, and welcome back to WRated, the podcast where we watch the world's worst rated movies, with today's episode exploring our fifth film on IMDb's Bottom 100. As always, I'm Daisy, and I'm joined by my podcast co-host and editor, Claire. Claire, how are you doing today?
Hello, I am doing okay. The sun is shining. I feel like that's as good as it's going to be right now, so it's going to be a dark episode, guys.
I don't know. It could be a little bit more fun than some of the more grim ones of the past date movie. I'm definitely very excited for today's episode, as we are joined by another guest, a new friend of the pod, but by no means any less lovely. It is Lou Thomas. Lou, welcome to the pod.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm loving it. Full of the joys of almost spring.
Makes such a difference, doesn't it? So, Lou, as you picked today's film to come on the pod to talk to us about, we kind of have a bit of a tradition where we would love for you, the guest, to introduce the film and tell us a bit about why you wanted to chat to us about it today, and if you have a bit of a relationship with the film at all.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure I'd go as far as to say I have a relationship with the film. You know, even a filthy one-night stand would be a bit much for this.
What a way to describe the film.
Well, I love it.
So, in terms of how I feel about the film, we'll get into that in great depth, I'm sure. But the basic gist of it is, for ages, I'd see glimpses of it repeated on ITV2. Now, as we know, ITV2, for any listeners outside of the UK, ITV2 regularly shows poor films, occasionally the odd good one, repeatedly, things like Hot Fuzz. But
I was going to say, they always show Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, and I will take no slander against those films.
Those films are very good, that's fine. Edgar Wright, as we know, is certainly one of the more interesting, certainly commercial British filmmakers, but we're not talking about Edgar Wright right now.
Unfortunately.
Other than that, ITV2 shows a lot of repeats, shows a lot of late night Family Guy and American Dad, which is primarily what I use ITV2 for. However, for a while, they would show Jack and Jill all the time. And it was something that I hadn't really entered my consciousness when it was on its cinema release in like 2011, but it was always been on telly the last sort of 5 years. And I'd always see clips of it and be like, what is this dirt? What is this appalling film? Adam Sandler, as we know, can be great. We'll come on to him properly later. We know he can be great, very funny, and talented as a serious actor. But this is just, it's appalling. It's appalling, but sometimes what's appalling in life sometimes sort of suckers you in, you know, like a siren to the rock. You know?
Yeah. That morbid curiosity, definitely.
Anyway, so that was where I first sort of came across the film in clips. Now and again, I'd see bits of it on ITV2 late at night, and then I'd immediately turn over or go and do something else, like do my washing up or something. Anything would be better, you know. Then, when this pod concept came up, I thought that's a brilliant concept. I've got to get involved with that. It sounds like something fun to do. I looked through the list of the worst films, and there were loads of interesting, funny ones. But I thought, oh God, that's completely ridiculous. And the thing I really remembered was the Al Pacino. It's not a cameo. It's quite a reasonably big supporting role. And like I'm a big fan of Al Pacino, and it is kind of interesting what he does in the film. But we'll get to that later. Anyway, the final thing I'm going to say about the actual viewing of it is I went to watch it again for this to record this podcast and to sort of remind myself of it. I put it in Letterboxd the other night when I watched it, and I'd seen that I'd actually watched it in full before, about 4 years ago, but I'd completely erased it from my memory. So I thought I'd actually watched it. So now I'm not sure what that tells you.
I think that's your brain trying to help you. It's healing.
Got it. So that's my relationship with the film, but I'd obviously watched it, completely forgotten that I'd watched it, and I literally didn't know that I'd watched it in full before. I didn't know, but I had. So,
brilliant. I love that. I definitely think I've had that with films before, where I'm sure I haven't seen something and then realised that I had and gone, do you know what? That's probably for good reason that I'd forgotten about it. Claire, had you seen the Jack and Jill before?
No. don't even know. I'm sure I must have seen the trailer in the cinema. I'm not an Adam Sandler fan. I'm not even like the good Adam Sandler comedies. I'm just not a fan of that style of comedy. So a bad Adam Sandler film would definitely never come near me.
Sure.
I had seen tiny bits of the Pacino thing and didn't really understand what it was or what was going on. And I think, again, in my brain trying to heal, my brain was like, just instantly forget it. It's not worth looking into. Don't hurt yourself. And so then...
Don't get suckered into this.
Yeah. Then Lou decided to pick this film quite early on in our run, so I didn't get to bury it as deep down as I hoped I would. And I had the pleasure of going to my local CEX last week and buying it on DVD, because I don't have Now TV to stream it. So I now own a physical copy of this film.
Lucky you. Lucky you. So you can inevitably forget that you'd watched it and then watch it again in 4 years' time, like Lou.
Well, but you say that. I checked if it was on streamers and whatever, and I was like, I'm not paying £6 or so. So I actually own a physical copy as well for like $2.50 or
well, I've actually DVD buddies.
I feel left out now.
Oh, I've a copy of it. It's like, what am I going to do with that? Am I ever going to watch that again? I doubt it.
I actually hadn't seen this film either. And it was interesting because at the beginning of when we were pulling together this idea for this podcast and sort of starting to promote it on Twitter and such, I actually walked into my living room to see that my housemates had it on the TV. And I was just like... This is a sign. This is a sign that this is definitely something that we should be doing. And I kind of watched the end with, a scene with Pacino and then the Pacino sort of scene at the end. And I was just like, yeah, I'm happy to put this one off for just a little bit longer. But I was intrigued. And, we'll come on to it a bit later, but it was what I felt like it was one of the easier watches that I've had so far. But obviously we'll go into a little bit more detail when we chat about what we think about the film. For those who haven't seen the film, Jack and Jill came out in 2011. It is classed as a comedy film. It's got an average rating of 3.3 out of 10 on IMDb. It's ranked number 38 on the bottom 100, which surprises me actually, considering, only 37 films are worse than this. We shall see. It was directed by Dennis Dugan, who also directed Happy Gilmore, Grown Ups, Big Daddy, and Just Go With It, among many others. He is a seasonal Adam Sandler director. So as we know, quite a good few films there. And written by Steve Corran, who also wrote Bruce Almighty and Click, two of my personal favourites. So you'd think that would be a good recipe for a good film. But maybe because it's also written by Adam Sandler, that's where the issue comes in. I don't know. Maybe I need to do a bit of testing and watch some more Sandler films. But obviously he stars as in a dual role. The plot follows his character called Jack, who's an ad executive. And basically his life takes a turn when his annoying sister comes to visit for Thanksgiving. Spoiler alert, also played by Adam Sandler.
He plays both the titular roles.
It's both the twin titular roles. The twintular roles? I'll keep working on it. I'll take it back to the drawing board. And then obviously, as we've mentioned already so many times, and we will continue to mention him, Al Pacino does play a big part in this film too, as well as Katie Holmes playing Jack's wife. She doesn't get a lot to do here, but she's in it. We can see her. She's there. She's there, standing there, beautiful, being Adam Sandler's wife.
Lou's already shaking his head.
Of an Adam Sandler film.
The thing is, it's a bit of a non-part. Katie Holmes. It's the classic the wife character. But she says half a dozen lines or something in the whole film, and they're all like, looking after the kid or doing something. It's almost like if you're going to get a decent actor to play the wife role, give them something to do, and that's one of the many flaws in the film. I mean, I know it's not supposed to be seen as high art, but come on, Yeah.
I listened to a different podcast that I'll mention later, who also looked at this film, and they described her as the sexy lamp. And apparently that's the Adam Sandler wife in movies. They're a sexy lamp.
I've definitely heard that before.
Yeah.
Definitely heard that before. Yes, this is a great example of that, I think. Before we go into any more detail, I just want to give a spoiler warning for anyone listening. If you do want to go watch Jack and Jill, each to their own. If you do want to go and watch it and ahead of hearing any spoilers, please go and do that now, because we're going to be heading into spoiler territory when we sort of go into a deep dive of the film and all of the plot details, etc. So go ahead and do that and come back, because I really want to know what you both, Claire and Lou, thought about this film. Should we start with Lou as our special guest? What did you think watching this? Well, back, I guess, but kind of in a new, refreshed mind way, considering you'd forgotten it before. What did you think of the film?
The thing is, I think we need to, before we get into all that, we need to really end your spoiler warning a touch and say, if you do want to go and watch this film, you've probably got deep-rooted psychological issues. It is so bad. The basic premise, actually, you feel like, right, okay, so he's going to play him. Adam Sandler's playing this TV exec guy and his sister, right? So we know that. Now, if you've got, let's say you've got a director like Pedro Almodovar, right? Someone who really knows what they're doing with sexuality and gender and having a laugh and you could really do something really funny and really cool with this film, with this basic premise, no doubt. I mean, if you go back through history, you've got films like Glenn and Glenda, the Ed Wood film, which is appalling, although I've only ever seen like bits and pieces of that, but I don't need to see all of that to you know what I mean, to get the gist of it. But like, so the basic premise, you feel like, well, okay, Adam Sandler, whether he's your taste or not, I mean, Claire's obviously said that he's not necessarily her taste. I'm kind of on the fence with Sandler as when he's good, I think he can be very, very good. And when he's poor, I think he can be completely miserable. But I feel the same about a lot of, I love On His Day. I think Will Ferrell's very good, but I also think a lot of Will Ferrell stuff is almost unwatchable. I'd rather...
Absolutely.
Really good point.
I'd rather put my hands in a meat grinder than ever watch Elf again, for example. But that's not the point. That's not the point I'm getting at.
Thank you. I tried to watch it 3 times and never got through it. I'm so glad to have a friend on the sad elf shelf.
Right. So
sad elf shelf.
I guess what I'm saying is that comedy, we know, is like one of, if not the most subjective genres of film.
Absolutely.
It is. But personally, I mean, I've... years ago, I've done stand-up. I've written the odd joke in my life. I'm not like the funniest geezer in the world, but I can tell a joke if I have to, sort of thing, right? So, but there are so many different types of comedy, and what appeals to one person won't appeal to another, and blah blah blah. But Adam Sandler exists in this kind of world when he does these mainstream films that is part slapstick, part ridiculous silliness. Kind of fart jokes and whatever. A good fart joke can be better than anything. Can be high art. That's fair enough. And
can it?
Who would watch like Dumb and Dumber? That's one of the fun. That's completely ridiculous and silly and toilet humour. But Dumb and Dumber is. Yeah. If you watch Bottom, the old series, Adrian Edmondson and Rick Mel, and Blackadder and things like that. Comedy can be low or it can be high or whatever. It's all comedy, isn't it? Frasier is comedy, the same as, like I say, a bloke falling down the street on a banana skin can be comedy. You know what I mean? So I don't. I'm not a snob. Right? What I'm getting at is I'm not a comedy snob at all. But with Adam Sandler,
it's not about high or low art. It's about how it's done.
About that. But with this film, it's like, oh God, you what is it even on about? Like one of the opening scenes, Adam Sandler as Jack, he's a TV ad exec, and they're shooting an advert, and the premise of the advert is something ridiculous about someone having a stomachache and like a Pepto-Bismol, I think, is the American thing, and suddenly the bloke on the bed who's complaining of a stomachache starts going, and starts cracking up and going crazy, and it's like, it just sort of falls flat. And there's loads of scenes like that in the film where it's almost as if the script is a first draft. It's like you can see where they're sort of going with it. Like, the basic premise, the skeleton of the film, you're like, oh yeah, if this was worked on a bit, if these jokes were punched up a bit, second or third or fourth draft, you feel like, oh, actually, there could be something good. But it's almost as if they've not bothered going beyond, or a script supervisor, or actually not a script supervisor, because their job is just to keep continuity on set. But like, you feel like somebody should have gone, hold on, this is all right, but we need a couple of rewrites to get this sharp. You know, that's what it feels like to me.
I can confirm, actually, that there were 2 rewrites. There are people credited for the rewrites, so that just goes to say something, really, doesn't it?
Did they make it better or worse then? Because one of the things that I
would
found
love
with
to know
it
that.
was a little bit like Lou was saying, the skeleton is fine, but then a lot of the jokes feel like they're just loads of different jokes that they've just sellotaped next to each other. Like there's certain points where the film just feels really like choppy. Like there's the whole scene with The Price is Right, and I'm like, why is this scene in this film? Like it doesn't relate to anything else in the whole movie. And I wonder if some of the rewrites were like putting more of those jokes in, like, oh, we've got another mate that wants to do a cameo, let's chuck it in. I'm like, what? Stop.
It's like they've got a whiteboard of all these different kinds of jokes where they're split up with like slapstick, wordplay, blah blah blah, and then they kind of just go, we haven't really had a joke in a while. Should we pick something from the board and make it
so,
and try and fit it in somehow?
Exactly. So there's a couple of the sort of not running jokes, but a couple of the jokes structures that they return to. For example, there's one where Adam Sandler as Jill is trying to remember "It's a Wonderful Life," and talking about it. and then round the table people go, "Oh, it's a wonderful life," and then he, as Jill, is saying, oh no, but what's the name of the film? And it's like, okay, that's not really very funny. You could possibly make that in another way, but it doesn't quite work. And then they return,
it's quite
an
old joke. That joke has been done
and they return
so many times.
They return to it again.
They do it again.
And I forget. I'll be honest. I literally only watched it a day or two ago, and I've actually forgotten what the other film is.
I can't remember the second one that they do.
The second one, and
because I think you know what's going to happen. You've seen this joke before, so you just kind of check out.
And it just don't really work. You got to be educationally subnormal to actually get like something out.
Oh God, that is a phrase that I am going to take away from this pod. That is brilliant.
Well,
I love that.
You can actually feel yourself getting stupider as you watch the film. You know what I mean?
100%.
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
So, but
luckily not. I feel like as much as Date Movie when we did, because that was tough, wasn't it, Claire? Maybe it's because we have Lou here today, because it was just us 2 doing Date Movie before. We really, really struggled to even start a conversation.
Yeah, it did take us 20 minutes to actually get the episode going. I had to cut so much out of the start of it because it was just the 2 of us like dying,
shaking my head, and I could feel my one brain cell like rattling around because I couldn't after that. But Claire, tell us a little bit more about sort of your impression watching this film. Obviously, you said that the jokes weren't there for you. What did you think about the plot itself? Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what happens when Jack's sister Jill comes?
So she comes for Thanksgiving, and it gives you the impression that she's come every year. They very briefly give you like little mentions that their mother has obviously recently died, and that Jill and the mum were very close, so she is a bit lost without the mum. But they don't really ever explore it. It just is like a little throwaway comment every now and then. But so you get the impression that Jill is very sad and very lonely, but she's also incredibly overbearing. She stays for Thanksgiving weekend. She ends up figuring out a way to get herself to be invited to stay longer. And then she keeps staying. And Jack just wants rid of her. He needs her out of his life. He wants his home back. He wants his normal, calm, brilliant, beautiful life back. So he decides to set her up on some dating apps, which doesn't go well. Then is it the joint birthday party? Yeah, the joint birthday. So, and he's trying to get Al Pacino. He's trying to woo Al Pacino to come and work for him, be in an advert. So he invites Al Pacino to their joint birthday party. Pacino locks eyes with Jill and suddenly decides that's the woman for him. And so then Pacino is chasing Jill for most of the film. Jill isn't interested, starts to develop feelings for the gardener. And then Jack then decides he doesn't want Jill to go because he needs Jill to get Pacino to work with him. And it all becomes this big thing about Jack learning to love Jill and accept her for who she is. And it could have been an okay plot. I actually think there is a good plot buried in there. In that, deep. The idea of one really successful twin and one unsuccessful twin, and the look at like the loss of her mum, you could have explored that a little bit more, which it kind of, they mention it briefly, and then it comes in right at the end, but you kind of don't mention it for the whole middle part of the film. And I think that could have been explored more while still keeping the comedy element to it. I don't think you would have had to go really deep and like make it really sad, but it does just feel like a patchwork of random scenes and random clips and random cameos of just them going like, do you know what would be really funny? If we got David Spade to also dress up as a woman and yell insults across a restaurant. It's like, would that be funny though? Would it?
Yeah. Do you want to just test that out with some normal people and see? Because we get that you're friends and it's funny for you. But
I did play a really fun drinking game when I watched it to get quite drunk. David
I
Spade,
watched it in the
got
morning,
4 drinks.
so... But I was tempted. It was one of those moments.
I don't think there's a drink where it's absinthe or what that's strong enough for me to drink and think this is a good thing. I feel like...
No, but it soothed the anger. I felt like it calmed.
Well, I'm not advocating hard drugs at all, but I feel like I could inject smack into my eyeballs all day and still it wouldn't do it.
Oh my God, you know when you get like really good pull quotes for a poster, like I want to redo Jack and Jill's poster just with quotes from Lou from this podcast, just to kind of, give a bit more of an idea of what you're actually getting into.
One of the things as well, going back to the plot, which is going a little bit off topic, is after watching this, I rewatched 50 First Dates, which I love.
That's brilliant.
It's a lovely, lovely film.
Yeah.
And one of the things that upset me in Jack and Jill was the long-running joke of the animal abuse. Like, people trying to eat the bird, people taping the bird to the back. There was something else, I'm sure, of an animal. And I was like, what is with
A
this?
hamster
Like,
on his back.
yeah. And I was like,
I'm not going to lie, I did laugh at.
So I am quite sensitive to animal stuff. So I do know that like there's at least 20% of my dislike of that is a personal dislike. But it just kept going and going. And I was like, has this ever been funny? And so then when I rewatched 50 First Dates, he plays, he works in an aquarium in that film. And there are little silly jokes of animals in that too. But I just found them a bit less offensive. And I found the whole film, there's so much of the same level of humour and so much of the same level of like crassness. But because the scenes with Drew Barrymore, they fill with a sense of love, that counterbalances the crassness. In this film, because it's Adam Sandler playing Jill, he over succeeds at making her annoying. She has no redeemable features, so there are no scenes where you enjoy spending time with her to like give you that warm fuzzy that I think the film is missing.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I think that leads perfectly into sort of my view of the film where, like you said, with something like 50 First Dates, it's got that substance there. It's got that element of romance and drama as the basis so that you can elevate it with comedy and make it something else developed into. Ultimately, we do have that substance there. Like we have the relationship with them two. It's quite tense, obviously, with the mum dying. That's a great sort of break in normality to bring them together. But again, like you say, it's just glossed over. And the idea that you said, obviously, that the idea of the film is how Jack learns to love his sister. And it's like, I just watched this last week and I'm like, was that the point? Because I remember it happening, but that felt more throwaway than the running jokes. The running jokes felt more integral to the plot in some way than actually the resolution of the story.
Yeah.
The resolution of the story was like, yeah, we've done that now, forget about that. Let's look at someone else in a dress. And I think ultimately it just got so lost in the laughs at the fact that Adam Sandler was dressed up as a woman, that the ideas, like you say, were buried there. But if you actually brought them up more, I think it would elevate the comedy so much more. The issue with Adam Sandler films, where the ones that don't perform as well, and some of the ones that do perform well but people just don't necessarily like, is there's obviously this running thing of him going to wonderful locations with beautiful women and his friends. It's just that good for him, like he makes money from it, he's living his best life. But ultimately what it comes down to is this funny for you and your mates, or is this funny for a paying audience? And I think that's really where it lies, in whether his films do well or not, and whether they're like received well or not. And I think that's why this didn't, is because you're sitting there going, why should I find Adam Sandler in a dress funny? Because that's the kind of thing you'd find funny if you knew the person. but like it gets old very quickly. And like you say, it loses that sense of like the point of the story, because how can he play up? I mean, he probably could. He's a good actor when he wants to be. Play opposite himself and actually give it a bit of substance and emotion.
Committed too well.
He's not here to do that. He's not here to do that.
All right. Question. Here's a question for you both. How the hell did it cost nearly $80 million to make? Because you look on screen, you probably paid. Well, we can get in. I've got a thing I want to talk about Pacino in a minute, right? But obviously, Thunder has given himself, or as part of it, because it's Happy Madison and his production company that have made it. So he's obviously on probably 15, 20, right?
He got 20 apparently.
Probably a cut of the gross, 2 or 3% of the gross as well, right? That's the standard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some get more, some get 5, 6, 7, 8. But we're not. Don't need to talk about that. But $80 million when you watch it. Aside from what you've paid Pacino to appear in it, and aside from what you've paid Sandler and that, there's no way this film is more than like 10, 20 mil. Because there's all the location stuff is stuff they've shot in California. It ain't like they've gone to Botswana to shoot it. It's not like they've come around here in Southeast and driven about. They've not done anything. They've not gone anywhere. They've not crashed any planes. How is a poor comedy $80 million?
Yeah.
It ain't. So Christ knows what their accountants have been doing. Well, I don't even want to know what they were doing on sets. I mean, that's,
The thing that annoyed me as well, because normally they do go to lovely locations, but it definitely looked like it was just filmed in California. The house looks beautiful, but watching that film, you would not know that is a beautiful house. I don't know who was in charge of the cinematography. But any scene in that gorgeous, like, Spanish-style mansion just looks awful. It looks so horrible. And again, like, how much did they pay for that gorgeous house to film in? They don't even sell it. Like, they don't make it look luxurious and relaxing.
Yeah. There's a lot of close-up shots now, I think about it. A lot of close-up shots.
So that might be because you say two characters.
I mean, a lot of it.
So it's easier.
A lot of it was...
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of it was shot on sets anyway. You can see a lot of it on a set.
Yeah.
But
you are right.
If you're shooting half of it on a soundstage, it should cost even less. Because you're 50 people so you're not closing roads off and paying off the council. Or not
that birthday scene... That birthday scene had like 20, 30 people all doing cameos. Maybe all the cameos got paid full daily rates.
I've got a list of cameos here. See how many Johnny Depp obviously wearing the Bieber shirt. Wonderful. Regis Philbin, Dan Patrick, Shaquille O'Neal, Drew Carey, John McEnroe, Christine Brinkley, Bill Romanowski, Michael Irvin, Jared Fogle, yeesh, Billy Blanks, Vince Offer, and Caitlyn Jenner. So,
I literally only know who about 3 of those people are. I'll be honest with you.
I think it's. I don't know whether it's a cross Atlantic sort of miss most for us, or whether they weren't that good cameos to begin with. I don't know.
I mean, I know who Shaq O'Neal is, of course, because he's a massive basketball player, and But then again, if you ask the average person in Britain to name 5 basketball stars, they would have difficulty getting beyond sort of Shaq and Michael Jordan, really. You know what I mean? But
I couldn't even name Shaquille O'Neal. If you say his name, I know who he is. But if you ask me to name him, I'd be like,
But anyway, even those cameos, you're not paying that much for them. No, you're getting ripped off, really, aren't you?
Well, that's it. Someone's doing some creative accounting somewhere, 100%.
Where did that 80 million go? I'd be very interested to know. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we've spoken a bit about the plot in terms of like there being a potential good story there, but the jokes just weren't landing. Did you guys find yourself laughing genuinely at any point? Because I thought I'm gonna watch and see the first time I genuinely laughed, because it had been a little while and I was just like, I'm gonna make a note of the runtime, but then I realised it was only like 10 minutes in, but I did let out a little like exhale through my nose.
I think
which I ashamedly admit was the sweat shadow. Like I was like, this is ridiculous. It was more of a. It was so disgusting that I was like laughing, like, how is this? Oh Jesus!
I literally on the second part of that where Al Pacino finds the sweater shadow, I literally wrote in capital letters in my book, Al Pacino did this red sweat scene with like 100 question marks. I found it so offensive.
So one of my favourite things in comedy is when they can be bothered is big stars sending up their own image and their own their own personas, whatever. So, for example, I love what's a great example. Well, the Tropic Thunder is actually full of great examples of it. But Tom Cruise in his sort of, as the violent producer is a good example of that. But Robert Downey Jr. as the intense method actor, I think is particularly good. This is nowhere near as good as that film, but Pacino in this, I do love the fact that he's gone full tilt with it. He's on stage and he's it's where Pacino is playing. Obviously, in this film, Pacino is playing a version of himself. And that version of himself, he's a serious actor on stage doing Shakespeare, and someone's phone rings and he goes mental at him. And obviously that's satirising the fact that everybody thinks Pacino is quite an intense guy. Because if you look at his career, you probably would be intense if you played The Godfather and you played, The Panic in Needle Park and Serpico and all these amazing films that he did in the 70s, and then more serious stuff in the 80s, and even Carlito's Way and Scarface and whatever. He's clearly an intense screen presence that you can't stop. You can't stop looking at Pacino when he's on screen. So the fact that he does kind of mercilessly mock that, and especially the best scene of the film for me is the penultimate scene where he finally agrees to do the advert for, and it is brilliant satire, and it's like him doing a ridiculous cheesy singing performance mocking his name in like what a Dunkin' Donuts advert basically. And I actually really like that. But what I like even more, I don't know if you guys have clocked it, but there's literally this week someone has, because everybody's bored in the pandemic and making like throwaway ridiculous stuff, even more so than in the normal times, someone has cut the advert scene at the end, Pacino doing Dunkin' Donuts. Someone has put that with the synth, the music from Gangster's Paradise. Now, I don't know if you two heard it.
No.
Hilarious.
No.
Brilliant.
I haven't seen it, but I love that song. That sounds great.
No, so imagine just the synth sounds of that. So imagine Gangster's Paradise, but with the vocal of that. Someone has cut that. If I can
amazing.
The thing is, it's difficult to actually search for because I don't think anyone has done it on YouTube. Someone has just done a clip of it and put it on.
No one puts like keywords or anything, do they?
In the week, I was like, they must have known. They literally this week this has happened. They must have known we were going to do this week because I was absolutely so much. I had to go and wash my trousers. I'm not even joking. But anyway, no, I had to bring that up. I had to mention that.
I have to seek that one out.
That's really fun. But anyway, no,
absolutely.
For me though, I there's the odd bit. I mean, actually, I know Claire didn't like it very much, but I actually quite like the mental kid who's like there's one bit where there's a little kid in it. I think he's Jack's adopted son, and he tapes takes what looks like a turkey to his chest, and he takes like a hamster to his back, and then there's a bit where he tapes like a salt cellar.
I did laugh at that.
He's dead, and then he's like pouring the salt on his food from his head. Now that is just so ridiculous and so bizarre. I actually quite like that. It reminded me a little bit of the scene in I think it was in The Wedding Singer where he gets paid in like gravy or meatballs, and he has meatballs poured into his hands. So we know that sometimes has these sort of almost surrealist touches that are so ridiculous. It's not silly. It's just bizarre. And again, Will Ferrell and all those lot kind of do this. Adam Sandler, when he do it, and like that, I sometimes, not every single thing I watch, but I sometimes do have a taste for the bizarre. And I think like a kid taping a turkey leg.
Absolutely.
For me, I was actually thinking, that's quite funny.
It's kind of like
the rest of
the more throwaway moments, I guess, when it feels like he's not trying so hard to make everybody laugh, that actually work better.
Yeah.
It's like the things that are happening in the background, the things that are happening with the side characters, essentially when it's not him. No offense, Adam, but I feel like all the things around him worked better than the jokes that were going on. That being said, I didn't mind Jill as a character. I kind of felt a bit bad for her at some point when, you know, she wasn't getting any matches online, her dating profile and things like that, when she was sleeping in her bed, having looked like she'd been crying. And I think also it helps. I know, Claire, you said that you didn't feel like she was made to be likable at all, but I think what did help was the fact that the kids loved her as their auntie. If we didn't have that, I think it would have been a much harder to kind of watch, because you're watching two annoying people. And also, you know, Jack as a character, he's just an asshole. Like, clearly there's contention between them, but like they didn't show why he hates her so much other than her just being embarrassing. And if anything, that just made me feel bad for her.
I just think they just went that little bit too far. And just as you were speaking, I was thinking, because one of the things I wrote was, I think it would have been a better film if someone else had played Jill. And obviously the one that you think of would be someone like Melissa McCarthy. And I'm thinking of her character in Bridesmaids. But who is her character in, is it Identity Thief? Yeah. Like, her character in Identity Thief is a horrible person who has very little endearing features, but then they break away at her. And by the end of the film, you are so rooting for her. And Sandler just went that over the line, just that little bit too far with pushing Jill. He didn't give her those redeeming features other than the fact that she was rejected. So you only feel for her
very
when you look at her through the prism of other people. She in herself just wasn't given anything.
That's a good
and he just
that's a really good point.
I mean, actually, Melissa McCarthy would be, thinking about it, I couldn't agree more. Like, I mean, let's face it,
that would be a really good film.
We all love, let's face it, anyone half decent loves Melissa McCarthy, right? She's brilliant in everything, blah, blah, blah. We can pretty much agree with that. But like, then the only trouble with that is if you did get a decent actor in that role or whatever, you'd, or rather, you didn't have any. You had anyone but Sandler. Then you wouldn't have the high concept, would you? You wouldn't have the two Adam Sandler. So you kind of lose that, which is fine for everybody.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Adam Sandler fans would be like, wouldn't be as. Whereas that's probably why we've got so many people to see it anyway. People going, oh, I like Adam Sandler. Oh, he's doing this. That looks quite.
Yeah,
you know?
It's an interesting one whether it would have, because we always try and sort of talk about what we feel would have just helped this film not be the worst. Like, was there one or two tiny things that just sent it over the edge, or was it just like wrong to begin with? And it's interesting actually, because you'd automatically think, oh, if it wasn't Adam Sandler as Jill, then maybe it would be better. But then would it be the same film? Arguably
no, which
not.
Is why I think it would be better.
Well, yeah, quite. Well, exactly. Talking about, just going back to the other supporting characters, I don't remember the daughter at all, but the little boy, I thought actually had really great comedic timing. Yeah, there was a few jokes that I can't actually, I should have written them down in full because I can't quite remember them all, but little things, just the way that he was very witty. One of the ones he said was when Jack was kind of saying, oh, Jill, what are you going to wear for your big date? Where the kid knows that he'd basically set her up on Craigslist with weirdos. And the little boy is just like, what are you going to wear, Dad, when you're in hell? And it's just the way that he said it. I was like, sassy, love it. Yeah, that was really good.
That was
probably had a hamster tied up, pasted on his back at the same time as well. Good for him.
Exactly.
He's got a little personality. I like it. I like it. Was there anything about sort of like the way the film was made? I know we sort of said, Claire, that you felt like the cinematography just really didn't do much to show off where the money went. Sorry. I know that we've spoken before about how we kind of don't mind the kind of really clean, crisp cinematography that isn't trying to tell any of the story itself, but it's just creating this kind of location where you go, oh, that New York looks lovely, I want to go there, kind of thing. But I think that we agree with what you've just said, that it kind of got lost because it wasn't really showing anything off, probably because it was all on soundstage. But was there anything else about the way that it was made you feel like let the film down as well? Or did you not feel like there was much? I didn't feel like there was much to it. I felt like it was just like, okay, I'm watching this film with this plot and these jokes, and that's kind of...
That's it. It's thin,
There's nothing else here.
It's a bit thin. I mean, you take out the concept.
Yes.
You take out the high concept, and there ain't a lot to it. It's not. It's an indistinct bit of filmmaking, and in that it is literally just a comedy. You could have set it in Philadelphia or LA or any American city, really, and you wouldn't necessarily No, I mean, I know there's a basketball game. Is that the Lakers or someone? But like,
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
That's the
But again,
thing.
could be placed anywhere.
That could be anywhere because you're not actually. You don't get a feel. Other than it's like generic American comedy, you don't, and it's that Sandlerish vibe. You don't get a feel for anything, do you? There's no sense of place to it, is it? And that's kind of you're like, well.
Yeah,
and don't get me wrong.
Everything other than
you don't need a sense of. Sorry, I'm bulldozing through this like.
No, go ahead.
No, go.
You don't necessarily need a sense of place with comedy because if you look at,
true,
I don't know, someone like Judd Apatow's comedy, you look at the likes of people like Seth Rogen and all his sort of that crew that make all those films, whether it's Superbad or Knocked Up or whatever. Or anything that, I don't know, Kristen Wiig makes, for example. Kristen Wiig makes. You look at all these films, and a lot of those don't really have a sense of place. They could be shot anywhere.
No.
But the difference is they've got heart, and you feel for the characters, and you watch 40-Year-Old Virgin.
You can relate to those. You can put yourself in that location.
You're like, I know people like that, and you're like, oh, that's really funny, and that's quite a clever way of looking at it, or whatever. Whereas that's the trouble with this film is... And even, again, something like his good stuff like Wedding Singer or 50 First Dates, you do sort of feel for the characters and you do kind of get into it a little bit. Whereas this lacks, it kind of lacks everything, doesn't it? It lacks the depth, it lacks the characters you really give a shit about. It's got a sense of place. So
it lacks the goal for the main character, and it goes back to what Daisy said, that she didn't even realise that was the point of the film, of Jack learning to love Jill. Yeah. Because in 50 First Dates, his goal is that he wants to travel the world, he wants to go on his big boat trip, and he is a guy with a goal and a mission, and he's working to get the boat done up. And then he meets Drew Barrymore's character and falls in love and has to choose between his life's goal and this person that he's fell in love with. Jack's mission in Jack and Jill is to get Al Pacino to sign a contract so he can have more money to continue living in his really big house and continue going on cruises. Like, there's very...
Why should we care?
Yeah. There's no struggle. It's, well, either you're going to get the work or you're not, and if you don't get it, you'll get some other work, and if you do get it...
There's no sense of stakes, really, because I know that they said, and as someone that works in PR, like, I know that feeling of like we need to impress these clients, we need to deliver, but it was so kind of like, I'm just going to say this exposition so you understand why Al Pacino is in this film. There's no actual sense of stake here, whether we will lose this client. There's no sense of whether that will actually impact my job. I'm just talking to this really annoying exec that I don't like about this thing that's meant to happen so that the rest of the film can happen. And it's interesting as well because usually with a film you'd kind of get this is a difficulty with the pod. I'm going to do something trying to explain something visual where you kind of have what you think is the arc, where you have the issue and then whether that person, how they get there and whether they get it. And then in the background, you have something else happening, such as, the contention between Jack and Jill, and actually around, the third act or into the third act, you start to realise that the point of the film isn't what you thought it was. And we're so used to that, we can tell, and it doesn't make the film any less interesting if we know that main mission isn't the real mission after all. But it kind of doesn't change in this film. It tells you it does. But at the end of the day, we're thinking about the Dunkachino ad that he inevitably gets, which is what the first mission was. And we're not remembering the fact that Jack and Jill are friends again.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I don't really think you thought that, you didn't give it enough oomph. It just got lost. And that's why it kind of feels a bit empty, I think.
Yeah.
Totally agree, yeah.
Which is a shame.
Actually, I've remembered something that I feel like is relevant. This film is so bad, and I like Al Pacino, and I thought, why has he done this? I mean, obviously he's been offered like a few million or a couple of million.
Yeah.
Why has he done this? So I Googled Al Pacino tax, right? And I thought,
nice.
This bloke landed with a massive tax bill. That's why he's wanted to take the money. And when you look, the first thing that comes up is Al Pacino getting done by the IRS in 2011 for 188 grand. Now, okay, that's fine. But when you dig into it, you find that they were shooting this film about January 2011, right? So they were shooting in 2011, released it late 2011. Kenneth Starr, the business manager of a load of Hollywood stars, including Al Pacino, he got nicked in May 2010. So you know that in 2010, Pacino knew there was some bad stuff coming with his tax and to get done, right? I wonder if he took on Jack and Jill because he knew. Yeah. He knew that he was going to have to pay off a load of tax. He needed a quick $500,000 or whatever on the hurry up. Did Pacino take Jack and Jill because he knew he had to do a load of crap and get a paycheck? I think maybe he did.
I mean, I think you've built a solid argument for that there. I'd have to be hard-pressed to unconvince me of that now.
But the best thing is I did a similar Google, but I didn't think to look into his taxes. And he did this, like, shitty
Sorry,
article.
this is just a funny concept.
He did this, like, shitty thing. He did, like, the Hollywood bullshit, you know, when you do, like, the press. He was like, I've decided in my old age that I want to take on films that aren't so good so that I can set myself a challenge to make them good by my presence. And I think my performance in Jack and Jill elevates it to at least a mediocre film rather than a bad film. And I'm actively choosing roles in films that might not be good with the hope I can make them good. I'm like, all right, Mr. Pacino, it didn't work.
Is he friends with Sandler now? Probably not.
He's like spun that so fucking well. Like, it's not the tax. Look at me doing this thing because I'm so amazing.
Me helping out people that make bad films by turning up to just but that makes me think, right, so because I really wanted to talk about Pacino again in this film because I think it's one of the best, if not the best thing about it. Would it have been better or worse without his presence? Are we agreeing with him here? Or
So I really struggle with the Pacino thing because...
Oh, really?
I had issues with not his performance, but his writing, like the way they wrote him. His pursuit of Jill made me so uncomfortable. Like,
absolutely.
It was again just
creepy.
Always that one step too far. It felt very predatory. It made me uncomfortable to watch. I just needed everyone to just take one step back. I felt like they crossed over the boundary that could have been funny. But I don't think that's his fault. That's the writing's fault.
Well, he's playing a character, even if the character is himself, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
he committed, and you cannot fault the commitment. He went all in. I wrote down, does he think this will be his Meet the Parents? Because, you know, Meet the Parents gave De Niro a career resurgence and got him in the comedy, which is obviously much older to do when you're getting to an older age than the stuff De Niro was known for. So I was like, did Pacino think this was going to be his Meet the Parents opus magnum, whatever?
Pacino, no. Oh, bless you. That makes me feel really bad, but also at the same time, like, I'm still on the tax thing. I think you're onto something there, Lou. I really 100%. Think you're onto something there. What do you think, Lou? Do you think it's better for Pacino, or?
Well, I mean, in that role, if you think about it, if you were going to say, right, we're going to put a serious actor who, like, the purpose of that, if you look at it, you've sketched out that film, and you've got Adam Sandler's job as a TV exec. You know, if you're thinking, right, who's the most ridiculous actor to do something that's not serious? To be honest, there's only 3 or 4 really big American actors you could have got to do that who would be up for, you know, mocking their persona. And you're talking big actors. You really got Pacino, De Niro. Who else really of the big American actors of the last sort of 50 years would even be in films of... It wouldn't be funny and it wouldn't really work unless you had... You need someone of that stature, and
you need someone with that history as well. You couldn't go for someone younger like Leonardo DiCaprio or Johnny Depp or someone who, you know, is regarded as like a high caliber Oscar winner, because you need the history, you need the regard.
Completely. Like DiCaprio and even Brad Pitt, who's obviously like now he's in his 50s or whatever age he is. I forget Brad Pitt, but like even that wouldn't work because they've had a varied career of doing. serious and not so serious and whatever.
Yeah.
Pacino is...
Yeah, they already have this presence of being able to make fun of themselves, whereas, like you say, it's a very small niche of people who are so serious that you can't imagine them not being intense as a person.
Which is why it kind of needed... It could have only have been really De Niro or Pacino, because just like, you know, I mean, if he was still alive, maybe someone like Marlon Brando perhaps, but you know, he would have been probably about the same sort. You're talking like screen legends, really, aren't you?
Yeah.
And it's really
absolutely.
Everyone who's between sort of, I don't know, 30 and 80, you'd immediately go, oh, Pacino, De Niro. There's only 2 or 3 you could really name. So I do get it, and it's like, I didn't really think about it as much at the time, but I think Claire's right in terms of it is a little bit sleek. I mean, that is part of it, isn't it? It's not Al.
It is part of it.
Al Pacino playing, you know, Al Pacino in quotes, so to speak. Yeah. It's like, you know, he's sort of dedicated in chasing Jill, and it is a bit much. I personally think it could have been more extreme and more predatory in that, but it probably goes as far as to make him seem like a real sleaze bag anyway, you know?
Yeah.
I suppose the redeeming thing would be that when, towards the end, when he does give up and he does go, oh, hey, you know what, enough.
Yeah.
Which gives it a little, sort of makes it a little bit friendlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was 2 things actually about Pacino quotes, to be specific, that I really loved, and I wondered if you guys found them as funny. Is the one where Jill destroys his Oscar, and she's like, well, you've got more, right? And he goes, you'd think so, but no. And that absolutely killed me.
Oh, yeah, look, I've written that, I wrote that down. I'm sure you have others. You'd think so, but oddly enough, I don't. So I've actually written that down.
Yeah. How that was phrased, I was just like,
brilliant.
How is that absolute piece of gold in amongst all the rest of this crap, to be honest?
If every line was as good as that, this would be like a 9 or 10 out of 10 film.
Oh,
you know?
It's like mining for gold with the little like panhandles.
Yeah, literally. You find one nugget.
If you were to like you know, do a compilation or make a show about some comedy or whatever, and you just show that clip, you'd be like, oh, that might be worth watching.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, maybe they probably put that in the trailer.
Yeah.
The other one was right at the end, which, do you know what, Claire? I really want us to use this if we can for our podcast, because Al Pacino, after watching a Don Pacino advert, says, it's totally deadpan to Adam Sandler's character, burn this. This must never be seen by anyone. All copies must be destroyed. No good. And I feel like that should be like our ranking for like how bad we think films are now.
So any film we don't like, that audio clip just goes at the end of it.
Yeah, that's what I envision, because that really, really set me off as well. So there was some humour in there, even if it was hard to find. Yeah. Was there any other kind of bits and pieces you guys sort of like stuck with you, or any sort of trivia you found on your research that you wanted to share about the film?
The only other bit, I mean, I told you my when you Google tax, it comes up Pacino, and then then you can investigate.
Yeah, that's gold. I love that.
Investigate your own thing. He was having tax troubles. He obviously knew about them before he was making it. So what does that tell you, folks? Like I said earlier, but the thing that interests me about it is you're both probably very familiar with the Razzies,
the Golden personal fave.
The Golden Raspberries is what they're called for anyone who doesn't know what they mean, any listeners or that. But the Razzies are every year, they're like the anti-Oscars, in that awards are given to the worst films of the year. In the case of Jack and Jill, it was nominated for every award, all 12, and it won all 12. It's the only film to have won all of the Razzies it was nominated for.
A sweep.
So it is technically, if not the worst film ever made, it's definitely down there. So I found that quite interesting. But,
it beat the record for the most awards had previously been held by the film we did 2 episodes ago, I Know Who Killed Me. This is what knocked that out, holding the most awards won. This beat it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did look up what it did at the box office as well, kind of its reception.
Yeah.
So it came out in 2012 in the UK, not 2011. We got it later. So I just looked up the UK box office. So it went in at number 5, didn't hit the top 3. The same week, it was up against Chronicle, Journey to the Mysterious Island, The Descendants, Warhorse, Jack and Jill came in at number 5, and then Man on a Ledge, The Grey, A Monster in Paris, The Artist, and Carnage. And February is kind of in the UK known as the dump month. You get the end of the Oscar season. So you get the kind of second wave of all the Oscar and BAFTA films, and then you get all the films that either didn't do well in the States, so they're not bothered about giving them a big UK release, or that they know won't do well enough to be a big summer release, so they just slip them in February, and you've not got much else to see, so you'll probably go watch it anyway.
Yeah, because there's no other comedies there, was there? Or did I mishear? Because that all seems very serious, like you say, a lot of Oscar stuff, and then a lot of other kind of inconsequential...
Yeah, so like
names.
Other UK films out that week, Puss in Boots was at number 15, which I'm a big fan of. And then Johnny English Reborn was at 52.
Jeez.
And Young Adult, which is a black comedy, but it's quite a dark comedy. You wouldn't...
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Jack and Jill...
It's a lot better film than any of those other ones you just mentioned, though, Young Adult.
And also what came out that week, which I loved and only rewatched this week, was Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. But that's a very serious film.
Yeah, very serious, but I love that, and I'm so glad it's on Disney Plus now. That will be one I'll be watching. Let's have a quick chat. Oh, just before I move on, actually, I did note that obviously we had a chat about the Razzies. I do want to flag that it did win another award, guys. It won Adam Sandler a Kids' Choice Award for Favourite Movie Actor. So, it's not all bad. It's not all bad.
Nominated against Adam Sandler was Jim Carrey for Thomas Tom Popper Jr. and Mr. Popper's Penguins, Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow for Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, and Daniel Radcliffe as Harry Potter for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. So whilst I don't think Adam Sandler deserves that award for this film whatsoever, he also wasn't exactly up against the best.
Yeah.
No.
Interesting. An interesting choice there.
I've not seen Mr. Popper's Penguins.
No, me neither.
I've not seen that Pirates of the Caribbean, but I think, is that the shit one? Like, on Stranger Tides?
Which one is it, sorry?
On Stranger Tides? I think
that was not the latest one that came out in 2017, but it was like the fourth one that was tacked on after the trilogy. Where the others didn't come back.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I quite like the first Pirates films, but the rest of them are not great, are they?
Yeah, and then Daniel Radcliffe. I enjoy the Harry Potter films because I have nostalgia as a kid, but especially in Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe is not that strong an actor. So, and
also, listen, Kids' Choice. If they watched all of those films, what one are they going to pick? The one that makes fart jokes, or the one that is really, really dark about the darkest one of the Harry Potter films? Like,
yeah.
Do you want to know what won Best Movie of the Year that year for the Kids' Choice Awards?
Tell me.
Alvin and the Chipmunks, Chipwrecked.
Right.
Brilliant. Right. I have to give it points because I love a punny name, so I have to give it some points.
Yeah.
He looks like he's lost the will to live.
He's like, just send him over the edge.
Oh, I've got to go.
Someone's at the door. I wanted to have a quick sort of like chat, as we always do, about sort of reviews and how this sort of performed against, because we know it's obviously been rated one of the worst films, but I always love to know what critics sort of, they have a wonderful way with words to talk about the films that they like, but they also have a wonderful way of words to talk about the films that they don't. So just starting on Rotten Tomatoes, the critic score for this, anyone want to take a guess?
I think I know, so I'll let Lou have a guess.
Lou? I honestly don't know. I mean, I am obviously a Rotten Tomatoes approved critic myself. I know that if I had reviewed it at the time, I would have given it, I don't know, in 20% or 1 star. It would have been a 1-star film for me out of 5. So I think I would have gone for about 20. So I suspect probably the average about 20-30%. That's what I'm going to guess.
Now, I feel like I read something, and isn't it that it's something ridiculous like 3%?
Yep, 3%. It's unreal. That's unreal, really. I don't think... Have we had any so far, Claire, that's been that low?
We've not had a single digit one.
I didn't think so. I think this really pissed off critics, like, a lot. Even
Adam
David wasn't this
Sandler
low, was
did
it?
though, because this was like...
Yeah.
This is when he really kind of checked out in terms of like trying to make a good flowing film. This is when the whole thing about him, like he just does it to get all his mates a paycheck and to go on holiday. That's when that kind of narrative really came into play. And I think critics took against that narrative quite harshly.
Well, it kind of still worked for audiences because they got, 10 times more than critics. They had a 36% score, so it's not great, but I mean, still 10 times more than the critics. And the critics' consensus was, although it features an inexplicably committed performance from Al Pacino, clearly also a fan, Jack and Jill is impossible to recommend on any level whatsoever.
Exactly, but think about it though. That audience score, right? Most of the people who even bothered to watch it would be died hardcore Adam Sandler fans, right? So imagine you take that; it's not being watched by everyone. A lot of people, people would see it, a poster of it, and go, "That looks like absolute dog shit," right? And go,
that was my thought.
Nowhere near that abortion of a film, right? That's what most people would say when they even see the poster. So the people who have actually paid their money, they're either certifiable, literally dripping on themselves, right? Or Adam Sandler fans, and there's definitely some crossover in that Venn diagram, right? So,
shots have been fired. Shots have been fired.
Right?
Wow.
So
yeah, I mean,
therefore, so
there you go.
So what we're getting at is that audience score is out of those people. So imagine how bad it must be if it's only getting That's what I'm getting at, because you can't.
That's a
very good point, actually. Very good point.
It's only out the people who've seen it, right? That audience score is not
the people that wanted to watch it.
This is it. It's like it's a bit like. I mean, it's one of these philosophical questions, right? Like when there's a vote of anything, there's a vote. It could be political, it could be whatever.
Yeah.
You're never, ever, ever talking about a population. You're talking about the people who've been bothered to vote, right? So it's the same with this.
Sure.
People who've given that score are people who've seen it. And a lot of people, 60, 70% of the world, 80%, 90% of the world, who would rather cut their own leg off and hit themselves in the face with it than watch that leg, right? Those people have not even voted. So the only people who have voted are the people who I've already talked about. That's why. So 30%.
Yeah. Wow.
This seems like a great point to interject. One of my friends, before I watched this, I told him I would be watching it, and he was like, "Oh, that's quite funny. There's like a couple of funny jokes in it." So after watching this, I sent him a very angry voice memo and demanded that he reply with a voice memo defending the fact that he told me it wasn't that bad, because he chose to watch this film and he would vote it as an okay movie.
I watched the trailer again last night just to remind myself why I thought it was an okay film. Do I want to watch it again? No. Do you know, I think the one part of it that actually really irritated me was Katie Holmes. That was the part that, like, I just didn't enjoy watching, and I quite like her in general, but I was like, oh, Katie, snooze fest. But I thought actually there was something quite, maybe a little bit heartfelt about Jack and Jill, and I just love those silly moments sometimes, like when she's in that scuba I love the bit when she's on the jet ski and it just like flips out the water, and he's like, please don't damage my pool, and the bit when they're skipping and they're like they're just having a great time. That's jump skipping scene is just hilarious. But if you really don't take it seriously and you take it with a pinch of salt and you've had a drink and you're not necessarily paying full attention, Yeah, it's all right.
What's my name? Dunkachino. It's a whole new game. Dunkachino. You want creamy goodness? I'm your friend. Say hello to my chocolate blend. Attica, hoo-ah, lottie light. This whole trial is out of sight. They pull me back in with hazelnut too. Caramel swirl, I know it was you. Everyone wants my Dunkachino. Can't get enough of my Dunkachino. Kids from 7 to 17 lining up for my Dunkachino. What's my name? Dunkachino. Dunkachino.
So I realised that I, probably might lose some respect for my opinion on this film. But, personally, I love it. You give me anything with Adam Sandler in, and I'll watch it to my heart's content. Who doesn't love a bit of sort of cheap slapstick comedy every now and then? I mean, granted, I think, maybe the quality of the writing and whatnot is not the best, but, I'm willing to look past that and just, enjoy it for what it is. It's funny. I think it's, it's laugh out loud funny. And you can't beat the scene with the jet ski in the water. I'm sorry, but that just gets me every single time.
Look, I mean, look. Right, let me qualify that. I have completely destroyed. You heard what I said, right? However, I actually do like some Adam Sandler films, and when we talk about our rankings and stuff, it may surprise you that what I say, but generally the overarching is if you saw the poster for this film. And you know what? I just say if you saw the poster, you saw a trailer of this film, and you still wanted to see it, you have got toys in the attic, mate. That's all I'm saying.
Sorry to my good friend Aidan and also friend of the pod Rhys, who clearly have a differing opinion than us.
Really? What?
Let's just leave that there, I think.
What's this podcast is about the worst films ever made, right? Well, there you go. That's what we were talking about.
True.
One of the worst films ever made. We're not talking about it because of its artistic value, are we?
Yeah, that's very true. And I did want to share as well, there's a few critics, just like one-liners that, Lou, I feel like in particular you're going to enjoy. So Mad About Movies podcast said, it was written by Brian, or said by Brian Gill, I'm not saying we should take Pacino's Oscar away from him, but I'm just saying that's a conversation that I'm willing to have. Rolling Stone were so harsh. They gave this film a 0. Like, there is nothing about this film that Peter Travers liked about. And he said, a total bust, a stupefyingly unfunny and shamelessly lazy farce packed with cringeworthy jokes and overt product placement. I mean, that last point is like, yeah. Right. And last but not least, IMDb user Prescott Candice said, this film led me to create an IMDb account because if what I've said here can keep even one person from paying to see it, then I feel like it would have been worth writing. Oh my word. Was there any reviews that you found, Claire, that you liked? I know that we find some really funny Letterboxd ones sometimes.
So I'm going to do a serious one first, just because I like to be the Debbie Downer. But so I did feel like with the film and the context of the film, especially looking at it now in 2021, you are looking at a straight white male actor dressing up as a woman, kind of. There's issues. So I wanted to find if I could see any perspective of a trans person and what their view of this film was, because I wasn't sure from my perspective. Yes. Is it offensive? Is it not? I
is this something we should be laughing at?
For different reasons, for completely other reasons, but not from that perspective.
Creepy Pacino.
So I found a podcast and it's called Is It Transphobic? And that is their podcast. They watch films and decide if the films are transphobic. And they rated it as a 7 out of 10 for kind of transphobia.
Right.
But
I was going to say,
I thought you meant
on the scale
on the scale of how transphobic it was. But they said they couldn't get that offended by it because the whole film is so bad and so kind of mediocrely offensive in every way, that they didn't feel like it was purposefully attacking the trans community in any way. Just, they said they felt it did harm to it because by the characterization of Jill, being so unfeminine, she sweats and she does this and she does that and she's really like masculine and can open a jar of pickles. They felt like that was highlighting that women can only be one thing and women can only be very petite like Katie Holmes and stand there and be good wives. Right. So they took issue with that element of it, but they felt like it wasn't particularly aiming for the trans community in any way. And I felt like that was an important thing to try and look into.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that. I think that's really important. So thank you for that. And I'm glad that it wasn't a 10 out of 10 at least for them.
Then I took a look at Letterboxd, and there are a lot of 5-star reviews on Letterboxd, but there are a lot of trolled 5-star reviews on Letterboxd.
Of course.
I found it quite hard to dig through, but I found 2 that I felt were actually maybe genuine. So one from a user called Liv, who just said, show-stoppingly absurd and awful. I love it. And I think that might be genuine. She just loves a bad film. And then Benjo Camber, who watched it. So both of these people only watched it last year. He also gave it 5 stars. And he said, seriously, unironically, think this is one of Sandman's, I assume Sandler, best and probably my favourite of them all. So stupid, yet so endearing. Perfect way to de-stress from such a difficult job interview. So, going back to my point, maybe he just needed to just have something on that didn't require even the slightest level of brain power, and this film helped him.
What was that bloke going for a job interview as? A serial killer?
I hear they're recruiting these days. I just found, Claire, there's a review on Letterboxd where a moderator has actually removed the review, and I am like, what on earth is this person said? It's got 161 likes though, so
damn.
Love to have seen that one. But
then its most common rating on Letterboxd is 1 or half a star. So I found one from Todd Carper, who he gave it half a star, but he then clarified 0.3%. And he said it's the 3rd worst movie he has ever seen, and then linked to a list of the 10 worst films he's ever seen. And of that list, number 3 is Jack and Jill. Number 2 is Speed 2 Cruise Control, which we will cover at some point for this podcast.
We will be.
But it's in the 90s, so the users of IMDb disagree with Todd. And then the first one is American Psycho 2, starring Mila Kunis, which didn't get a cinematic release, so doesn't count as part of the IMDb bottom 100.
I see.
So we won't get to see that. But clearly Todd has some opinions, so interested in those. And then another one which relates to our list, from Honey Badger J, who only watched this 10 days ago. He said, I was able to sit through the Human Centipede 2 on my first try and couldn't even sit through 5 minutes of this garbage on 2 separate attempts. Point is, life is so much better without this in it.
I think I've seen Human Centipede 2, actually. That was like Citizen Kane compared to this.
And I'm going to use that clip as our advert for when we eventually do Human Centipede 2.
Oh my God. Yes. I'm putting that off for a little bit longer. I think we're suffering enough with the pandemic already. We don't need to be putting Human Centipedes in it as well. Bearing in mind, I have seen them all before, so...
I've only seen the first one.
Actually being a part of a Human Centipede would be better than what...
Lou, and you like it more than I do.
Yeah, this is biting. I love this.
Just the last tiny review I found, which relates to reviews we seem to always find. It's a big thing on Letterboxd, from Fooney for Klutzy. Surely there's a deep porno fake of this movie.
What's the rule? There's a rule 34 if it exists as a porn of it, and unfortunately that's something I'm going to be thinking of every time we review one of these films now.
I've eaten my lunch, but it might come up again after.
Right, let's stop that there then, because I want to save Lou from having to see his lunch again.
Yeah.
let's talk about the films that we do like from Adam Sandler. We said we were going to do our top 3. Lou, let's go with you first. Tell us a bit more about what's in your top 3 and why.
Right, first of all, I'm completely breaking the rules because that's the kind of guy I am. I've actually got 2.
Love it.
I've got
Renegade.
top 3s, and maybe what I'll do, really, really nice, is I'll give you my 2 top 3s, and then we can boil them down and choose a final top 3 out of them. So here we go. For me, the very best Adam Sandler, the best 3 Adam Sandler films, there's a reason I've split them up, is because these 3 I'm going to mention are all dramatic roles. Right. So,
right. Okay. Sure.
So I'm going to rattle through these because I've got like 6 to talk about, really. So Punch Drunk Love, which is a brilliant Paul Thomas Anderson film, which was for me the first thing I ever saw where I thought, oh, Adam Sandler could do it as a dramatic actor. I've actually forgotten most of what the film was about, but I remember it being very good. And I will revisit it at some point. So that's enough about that for a second. Secondly, Funny People. He plays a comedian who's trying to revitalise his career, and his writers are Seth Rogen plays a guy who's like a fresh talent and who's writing for him. And I think off the top of my head, Judd Apatow directed it, and it's got loads of sort of cameos of decent stand-up. Although it is about comedy, and it is very funny in parts, which it is definitely a dramatic role and definitely a dramatic film. And it's really like, it is serious, but it is really good. It's serious about comedy, and I kind of like that kind of thing. But those two are both great and dramatic, and prove that Adam Sandler can really, really smash it as a dramatic actor, because he can. But by far and away his best film, and actually this will definitely be the number 1 on my combined list, is Uncut Gems, because he is wicked in Uncut Gems.
Yes.
The role he was absolutely born to do. The Safdie brothers tried to get him early on as this New York jeweler who's like a gambling addict. And it's set in the Diamond District in New York, all shot around there. Really good. It's tense all the way through it. The Safdie brothers are brilliant directors, and they've got better and better with each film. But Uncut Gems, it's the whole film is on him all the way through. It's him ducking and diving and wheeling and dealing and doing this deal over this huge gem and trying to get millions of dollars and so on. But he owns money left, right and centre, and he's a chronic gambling addict. He keeps putting money on bets he shouldn't do, and he gets wound up in the wrong criminal people. And it's tense and it's vital and it's brilliant. It's one of the best films of the last 5 years for me. And Sandler was grotesquely left out of most of the acting awards and nominations. He did win, I think, the Independent Spirit Award, and even his... it was certainly an independent cinema award of some kind. It might well have been independent cinema. I should have Googled this, but never mind. He won the award, and he did a brilliant acceptance speech. And that alone, his acceptance speech is better than his old performance in Jack and Jill. But like Uncut Gems is by far and away his greatest performance. Without a doubt, and that's at the very top.
Absolutely.
So that's 3 serious roles, and those are for me the best films he's actually done. However, all that said, Uncut Gems I will hopefully watch another maybe 2 or 3 times in my life. Funny People I will watch again. Punch Drunk Love I will probably watch again, but I'm not rushing to see those, but I will watch them again. However, the best 3 comedies for me, and the only 3 comedies I can really stomach of his to watch. Happy Gilmore in at 3, which is the same director as what we just watched, Dennis Duggan, and I think he's pretty good. It is silly and it is kind of shit, but it's actually kind of interesting because he does like satirise and completely destroy golf, and golf is a very silly sport. I mean, my old man likes it. It's not necessarily bad for me, but it is a very silly sport. But Adam Sandler completely destroys it in Happy Gilmore. Second comedy, I would say, is 50 First Dates, which I really enjoy because I feel like the Drew Barrymore and Sandler are brilliant on screen. Why they've only done so few films, I don't know, because they're obviously a good couple on screen. But by far, his best comedy for me, even though Uncut Gems has got some very funny moments, by far for me the best thing he's done comedy-wise is The Wedding Singer, which is pretty funny all the way through. It's brilliant because Steve Buscemi plays a bitter drunk. Drew Barrymore is his kind of love interest in it, and he plays the eponymous wedding singer, and it is really funny and really good. And it's set in the 80s and stuff, and the music is all quite funny. The music is good, and Billy Idol's in it and all sorts. So yeah, the wedding singer is actually, I think I put it on DVD, so I must quite like that. But anyway, those would be my top 6. So Happy Gilmore first, 50 First Dates, The Wedding Singer, and then on the dramatic side, Punch Drunk Love, Funny People, and Uncut Gems. If you put a gun to my head, I would go.
Which we do on this podcast, by the way.
No, we're not going to put a gun to your head. We're going to make you rewatch Jack and Jill.
No.
Yeah, which is worse.
Worse. Way worse. That's like Come Obey culture. I would go top three. I would go on then. I'll go Wedding Singer in at 3, Funny People at 2, Uncut Gems at 1, if I absolutely have to. But those films I love. Everything else I've seen Adam Sandler in, I've thought was unwatchable. But those 6 films I like.
It's crazy, isn't it? The disparity between something where you're like, wow, he should have won awards for this, and then the other stuff, it's like, burn it. I don't even want to acknowledge that it exists. He is a man of versatility, that's for sure.
It's bonkers, isn't it? It's like had you watched his early stuff and never ever, you'd never in a million years you think he'd be capable of something like Uncut Gems. But then you see it like,
no,
man, this bloke is immense. He's as good as anyone out there. You know, just in the right role and working with the right directors and give him a decent script and he can do it, he can smash it. There you go.
So I'm going to jump in with my top 3 because Lou mentioned all 3 of my films already. So I feel like that's good to jump in on. So I will say, caveat this, I have never seen The Wedding Singer. So it doesn't. So I saw.
Neither have I.
I
feel like I need to do a big Adam Sandler fill in the gaps.
For mine.
To be honest,
Adam Sandler is the reason I never saw it. So I saw bits of The Waterboy years ago on a coach to Spain. So I'm sitting on a coach as a kid, and there's nothing to do but watch the video that they put on. And I found Waterboy so bad that I read a book instead.
Right.
And I do love reading. That's not saying books bad, but just hated The Waterboy. So then I avoided The Wedding Singer because I didn't like Adam Sandler. Right. So I've never gone back to revisit it, which is my own fault, and I should, and I know I should because people love it. But so my top 3, I am also going for Funny People at number 3. I'm a big Judd Apatow fan. I'm a big fan of Seth Rogen. I think Adam Sandler is really good in it, and he does that little bit of he's playing a version of himself. Right. There's self-reflection in it. It is too long. It does have flaws. It needs an edit, which stops me from rewatching it and makes me forget it. But every time I remember about it, and it's one of those ones that has a bit of an ITV2 run as well, whenever I caught bits of it, I was like, I like this film. This is a good film. It's a solid script. It's good characterization. You get a full arc. You get development. I think it's, and I think it's an interesting Sandler performance because he's tiptoeing that line of really doing his comedy stick, but then trying to be more sensitive and look into that kind of deeper element. So that's my number 3. My number 2 is Uncut Gems. For every reason you said, I got to see that at a preview screening in the cinema at Prince Charles. That is a film to watch in a cinema, like a pressure cooker. And I knew very little about it, which again, I was so chuffed because I had no idea what I was getting into. I was so stressed by the end of it. I've not rewatched it yet because again, it's not a film that you want to revisit all the time. It's a film that I will revisit at one point. It's the only Safdie brothers film I've seen, so I actually want to revisit their older stuff and watch them and then rewatch Uncut Gems, do a whole retrospective.
They're all that tense.
Yeah, which is why I've not done it because I don't need that energy right now.
The tension, they're all that mindset and they do that thing where you kind of hate the characters, but you like them as well. There's that little bit about them you like. But most people would agree that probably Uncut Gems is their best.
The best, yeah. But and I think that's why I respect that film so much as well, because I've spoken about it in the past on the pod, and I speak about it a lot when I write about films and talk about films, is I really struggle to engage with films where I don't like the main character. For me, the character is the open door to me to get me involved in a film. I have to engage in some way with the main character. For them to be able to make such a hateful character and me still be 100% in, 100% involved, rooting for him, they've done a good job because they've taken the thing that I struggle with the most and still made me 100% all in, which to me, I'm like, you've done a great job because I know that's a flaw I have in my own watching. And then my top one, I've mentioned it a lot, it's 50 First Dates. Love a rom-com, love Drew Barrymore, love a sweet story. It's adorable. They're adorable. There's some penguins. On a rewatch, I saw some flaws that I probably didn't see when I was 12, but the nostalgia kept me going anyway. Just really enjoyed it. Absolutely. I love the Beach Boys. That song just makes me so happy. And that's my 3.
Oh, it's such a good one. That is number 3 on my list, 50 First Dates. It's just one that's always stuck with me. And I agree with you guys, very sweet. It's by no means perfect, but it's just one of those ones you can stick on and know you're going to have a nice, good time. Obviously, you guys have covered that quite a bit. So I'll move on to my number 2, which is Click. I love Click. Like, I haven't watched it so long.
I've never got through it. I've tried watching it on a couple of occasions and it just doesn't sit with me.
About it?
I'm not an Adam Sandler film, and I also, is it Jessica Biel, his wife, in that? I really don't like Jessica Biel.
Oh, I can't remember which beautiful woman is his wife, to be honest, in every film.
The cast just turns me off, but I do remember watching a bit of it where he like goes too far forward and everyone's really old and like he's not old or something, and I was like, man, this is dark.
Yeah, it gets dark. I love time travel in films, and this kind of plays on that in a modern way, and I just watched it when I was a kid and a teenager, and it's kind of stuck with me. And there is a point where it gets really like dark and quite upsetting, and I think that just adds another element to an Adam Sandler film that I haven't necessarily seen in anything else. So that's a bit of a personal favourite for mine and of mine. And then my number 1 is Uncut Gems as well, because my word, I have never felt so anxious, and I have anxiety about something that is not happening to me.
Yeah.
But I am like, oh my God, every single decision he was making, I was like, why are you doing this? Why?
Yeah.
And I got so into it. And
things.
It's not, like you say, something that you rush to see again because it doesn't fill you with the feeling that you want. But I don't know, like, I kind of want to watch it now and be like, oh God, at least my life's not as bad as this guy's. Jesus. They kind of give me a bit of a baseline to work back on. And I just think he was unrecognisable in that role, amazing. And I know you guys have spoken about most of the films on my list anyway, so I just wanted to give a little honourable mention to Bedtime Stories. It's something I always used to watch with my little brothers. So it was one that was out, when did it come out? It came out in 2008. So I was a teenager at the time, but my little brothers were kids, and it's something we watched with my dad. And it's basically based, it's like a fantasy. Adam Sandler is their uncle, the kid's uncle in the story, and he tells them bedtime stories, and everything he sort of tells when they interject with their fun and fantastical ideas comes real in his life. So it starts raining like gumballs and like it just all these fancy things happen. It's just very sweet, and it's just a nice family film, and like it's again something that I've got that nostalgia attachment to, and it's not something that I hear many people talk about. I don't know if it's kind of like it's got 2.4 on Letterboxd. I don't think it's quite highly revered, but it's nice and it's fun, and it's got cool people in it. It's got Kerry Russell, Guy Pearce, Courtney Cox, Lucy Lawless, Carmen Electra, Jonathan Pryce is in it as well. Mad. Anyway, I might give that a rewatch and see if it holds up.
The only other film that would have maybe gone onto my list was Pixels, which loads of people hate. People really didn't like Pixels. I just thought it was
really
good fun.
Like it.
I just had fun at the cinema, man. I went in, I saw some things that reminded me of being a kid. I got excited because I wanted them to win. I just had a fun time at the cinema, and that's the thing. It's by no means anyway a high caliber film, but it was exactly the film it told me it would be, and I had fun.
Yeah.
Great.
I gave it 1.5 stars by the looks on Letterboxd. I really didn't like it. Like, I don't give that low for anything. Like,
I would give it like 3.5. But I'm not a Sandler
is it
fan.
On our list?
No, it's nowhere near that low.
Is it not?
No. Oh, it's probably like 101 or something.
I think it's just because I've seen so many people slate it that I'm quite surprised.
It's so I think it either got mediocre or slated, and I'm on the like mediocre to good, and I think there were probably more mediocre to good, but people don't celebrate the mediocre to good reviews. They only celebrate the great reviews or the awful reviews.
That's very true. Now we've sort of given our best. I just kind of wanted to ask you guys what your kind of, I know Lou, you mentioned earlier, but it'd be good for you to mention again what your rating of this film would be, and whether you think it should be on the bottom 100, and whether you think, should we burn it? Should people never see this again? Per Al Pacino's quote. What do you think?
I mean, there's about like 10 minutes of it that are worth watching, just because if you're interested in Al Pacino, it's worth seeing his scenes, because it is him playing a version of himself. But I mean, put it this way, I'll probably never watch it again, and that I don't feel bad about that at all. And it is really only a 1-star film. If you've rating stuff out of 5. It's a 1-star film. It's a 2 out. It's a 20%. It's not really worth a lot. If no one ever talked about it again beyond this podcast, it wouldn't be a great problem with the world. But although it's I can see why some people might have a problem with it. If we're going to get into identity politics and talk about, the trans community might have a problem with it. But it's not malicious. It's clearly not maliciously against that.
No.
What I mean, it's not done to say, oh, trans people are awful. It's like it's everything at the service.
Yeah.
The ridiculousness of Adam Sandler. Do you know what I mean? I feel personally, but I can understand why.
Yeah,
I can understand why a trans person might go against it, and that's fine too. And again, I can see the point of like, it's not great for women that Katie Holmes has got such a non-part. Do you know what I mean? It's like you've got a decent accent. Why not use? You could give her some good lines there. You know what I mean? There's no for me, but who knows? When the script was being written and put together. Clearly, Sanders the star, right? So he wants all the light on him as much as possible. So I get that as well. So that said, it's like it's a bad film. It is a terrible film, And like I said, it still baffles me and will always baffle me how it's cost that amount of money. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter because it's not like it's bad and it's awful, but it's not like offensive. I don't think. But hey, what does it matter what I say?
Yeah. Well, I've loved everything you've had to say. So
yeah, no, it did.
I've loved everything you've had to say.
I'm gonna jump in with my opinion then, which is kind of similar but opposite of Lou's, because one thing we didn't discuss, and I get why we didn't discuss it, because it's not we are free British white people.
Exactly.
There were some questionable race jokes. There were some questionable racial stereotypes that I found myself feeling uncomfortable with, but I don't want to talk for other communities and how they would feel about something. But it felt very dated to me, considering it's only 10 years old.
It felt like date movie kind of like jokes. Like I was like, why is this? No. I
found those elements of it offensive. And again, though, I think that's where I agree with Lou. I don't think it was setting out to offend anyone, but unfortunately it was mildly offensive, and because it was very stereotypical. And I think looking at it from a 2021 lens, those jokes aren't great. I think, though, even looking at it from a 2011 lens, they would have been a bit, that's a bit orcs. So I found that level of it very uncomfortable, but I am also not the fan of that style of humour either. I would agree it's a 1-star film. It's not a good film. I would struggle to be able to recommend it any higher than 1 star. There are a couple of tiny elements that are maybe redeemable, but it's a bad film. I think
you're burning it then.
I'm burning it. I think it does deserve to be on this list, both because I think it's a bad film in that the jokes are tasteless and they're lazy, which is where I find the offensiveness coming in, because I find those stereotype jokes are just lazy writing and lazy humour. But as we said at the start, humour is very subjective, so I might be completely alone in that opinion. But I also think, just in terms of story, like Lou mentioned earlier, it's just a really weak story. There's actually not much there. Once you take out the conceit of Sandler playing 2 parts, as a film and as a plot, there's nothing there. So I don't think this film should exist, because I think its one conceit about Sandler playing 2 roles is wasted and not funny, and then there's nothing after. When you take that away, there's nothing left. So burn it.
Okay, all right. Well, you guys have the physical copy, so I'll leave the burning to you. But I was toying with this, and I don't tend to rate films very low, and I think that's just because even when things are bad, I get something out of them. So I was thinking something middle of the road, like 2.5. But do you know
Daisy!
what? Because the things that I've rated 2, I genuinely hate, like Attack of the Clones. So I thought, well, I don't hate it. But then I thought, do you know what, though? It's more a case of I sat down and watched it, and I was like, do you know what? I have nothing good to say about it. I don't have tons of, like, I have bad things to say, but not from a sense of like, this hurts me. But I shouldn't be like that with something that cost this amount of money, has Al Pacino in, and has Adam Sandler in when we know what he can do. The fact that it is done so lazily, I'm like, do you know what? I'm dropping down because you should know better. Kind of thing, but I am only dropping it down to 2 because I have to really, really hate something to be low. So I'm going for 2. I do think it probably should be on the bottom 100 because, like, just do better, you know, like step it up because you have the money. There's people out here have no money trying to make films that are amazing, and you could do better if you just tried a little bit. So I think that's probably why I'm like, it deserves it.
It's phoned in, apart from Al Pacino.
Yeah, which I kind of just want to watch like a supercut of his scenes now, and like never watch that film again, but just watch a YouTube video of just his scenes. Cool. So I think that about wraps it up for us. But obviously we always want to hear listeners' thoughts about today's episode and also the film we were discussing, Jack and Jill. So who out there has seen it? Does anyone want to give it a go now? And do you think that it deserves a place on the bottom 100? Give us a shout over on Twitter and Instagram at RatedPod. And you can follow us on Letterboxd at WRated. Lou, where can everyone find you on socials? And is there anything that you want to give a bit of a shout out that you've been working on lately?
Oh, God, that's a good question. So my day gig is I work at the BFI, and obviously anything I've said in this pod does not reflect the opinions of the lead film organisation in Britain, right? Because obviously I'm in trouble for that, okay? So that's my day job. I'm digital production editor on bfi.org.uk, so you can often find my features where I've interviewed various directors or written about films and stuff there. But also you can find my freelance work, generally speaking, NME.com, sight and sound, print and online. Little White Lies, occasional print, sometimes online. Den of Geek occasionally, and that Scottish magazine, The Skinny, which is really good. I write for them occasionally. And there's a few there's a few other things I've got in the pipeline, but they're the sort of chief things. You can see my video essay for the BBC, which is called Pubs on Film, which is, you can see it on iPlayer and all that. And
nice.
Google Inside Cinema, Pubs on Film. Great. That comes up. There's loads of bits and pieces.
Perfect.
There's loads of bits and pieces, but that's the bulk of it. What else? You can see me usually online moaning about Tottenham doing terribly in the league. Otherwise, writing nonsense about films on Twitter. That's pretty much what I do.
We love doing that, don't we? Where can we find you writing nonsense on Twitter about film on Twitter, Claire?
So you can find me at Clare Ellen Hope, Claire without an I.
Cool. So you can find me at Daisy Vic Edwards on Twitter and Daisy Victoria Edwards on Instagram and Letterboxd. Just want to say a big thanks for everyone tuning in to listen. If you are still enjoying listening to our podcast, please do give us a follow or a subscribe. And if you're feeling generous, a little rating or a review as well. Thank you for those who've done that so far. And we hope that you join us back for our next episode where we explore another worst rated film with another special guest. So see you then, and thanks for listening. Bye.
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 Burn this.
I'm sorry?
This must never be seen by anyone.
If you didn't like all those close-ups, we can. No, this is not the final cut. There's no doubt we can.
All copies. Destroy them.